Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on KPAX, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, I'm Jill Valley.
And I'm Dennis Bragg.
The attorney for Ravalli County's former treasurer says he'll file a motion for reconsideration of last week's ruling dismissing her $20 million lawsuit against the county and the local newspaper publisher.
And he says if that motion is rejected, Valerie Stamey will appeal. Stamey filed the lawsuit in U.S. District Court earlier this year, arguing that she had been illegally terminated after the messy and controversial investigation into her running in the Ravalli County Treasurer's office after she was appointed. The suit named current and former county commissioners, other elected officials, and county employees, and Michael Howell, the editor of the Bitterroot Star. Stamey was initially suspended and then terminated for not keeping proper records and mismanaging the office after her appointment in 2013, leaving hundreds of thousands of undeposited funds sitting around her office. Last week, U.S. District Judge Dana Christensen dismissed the suit, faulting Stamey's attorney Robert Myers for not meeting deadlines and filing what he called bizarre motions and briefs that weren't meeting local court rules.
Authorities are investigating the third officer-involved shooting that Great Falls police have had this year. It stemmed from an incident that happened this morning just before 10:30 near 10th Avenue North and 52nd Street in Great Falls. Police say a suspect had a weapon and that led to the shooting. The suspect was fatally shot by officers. Nobody else was hurt. Great Falls police confirmed in a statement that at least one officer was involved in this fatal shooting and they have been placed on administrative leave, which is procedure in this case. Multiple blocks around Great Falls were closed off throughout the day as police investigated. It is now being investigated by DCI. Authorities in New York City are trying to piece together the background of an immigrant who detonated a pipe bomb in the subway. At least 4 people were hurt in that. This surveillance video shows the suspect detonating an explosive in a subway walkway near Times Square. They have identified him as 27-year-old Aqaid Ullah, an immigrant from Bangladesh who was living in Brooklyn at the time. The suspect's abdomen and hands were burned when the crude pipe bomb went off. Law enforcement officials tell the Associated Press that Ullah was inspired by ISIS but had no direct contact with the terrorist group. Authorities say the suspect is speaking with investigators from his hospital bed.
Back here in Montana, Mineral County authorities are looking for your help in finding 2 Californians missing after their car was found at a Mineral County rest stop. Authorities are asking for any information regarding 24-year-old Suzanne Michelle LaBelle and 25-year-old Sherwin Fernandez Lamondo Jr. On December 1st, Mineral County authorities were alerted that the couple was missing. Deputies found their vehicle parked at the Denimora rest area along I-90 near the border later that night. After a 5-day search, though, it was called off on December 7th due to weather conditions and a lack of any information that they were in the area. It's not clear at this time if they left the area on foot or if someone gave them a ride. Anyone with information is asked to call the Mineral County Sheriff's Office at 822-3555. Meanwhile, the Beaverhead County Sheriff's Department announced today that a Glen man remains missing. He vanished on December 1st. Sheriff's Office has suspended its search efforts for 56-year-old Calvin Charles Zimdars after 9 days of extensive searching. Turned up no trace of him. Zimdars was last seen November 30th at his home on Sugarloaf Mountain Road in Glen, about 2 miles north of Dillon. Sheriff's Department will reactivate the search if it gets new credible information. Anyone with information about the case is asked to call the Beaverhead Sheriff's Office at 683-3700.
Well, after several days of dreariness, the sun did peek through our inversion this afternoon in parts of western Montana. So what's next? Let's check in now with meteorologist Russ Thomas with our first forecast.
Yeah, this was a good sign today, and one of the reasons I say that is because we had this upper level ridge in place across western Montana as we've seen the last several days. Not sure what that is, so what I will do is I'll go ahead and push it on. We've got 20 degrees right now. Take a look at our St. Joseph Medical Center iCam, and you see right there we do have a little bit of fog. Again, we're seeing that frost build up on the trees, and what I was trying to say is the inversion breaking a little bit today. Now that high pressure is supposed to be over the area for the next several days, but we're hoping we can continue to see these little breaks here and there. At least it feels, or at least it looks a little better, even though it's still in the low 20s. We'll have more coming up in just a few minutes.
It is a cold case that continues to haunt a Ronan family, and on this 5th anniversary of the death of Bob Van Gooten, the answers to what happened to him are just not there. It was December 11th of 2012 when the 63-year-old Van Gooten left the Valley Bar in Ronan, but just after 8 o'clock that night he was found lying in the parking lot. He'd been run over by a vehicle and killed. The family was told Van Gooten may have been in a confrontation outside the bar just before his death. Ronan police investigated the scene and searched for the vehicle involved, but no one's been arrested. We spoke with Ronan Police Chief Ken Weaver today, who told us the case is still open. They have received a few tips over the years, but nothing has led to a suspect. Whoever hit and killed Bob Van Gooten is still at large. He was a Marine in Vietnam and a former chairman of the Little Shell tribe. He was enjoying his retirement until his death. If you have information, you're asked to call the Lake County Crime Stoppers at 883-7309 or the Ronan Police Department 676-0223.
The state's top campaign law enforcer says the Montana Democratic Party violated some reporting requirements in last year's election. In a decision released this morning, the Commissioner of Political Practices says the party reported about $300,000 of independent expenditures for the 2016 election, but it didn't identify which candidates it opposed with that spending. Commissioner Jeff Mangan says that's a violation of state law. He also said the party failed to properly disclose that it would be spending money to support Supreme Court candidate Derek Sandifer. The ruling says the commissioner likely will negotiate a fine that the party has to pay as a penalty. The ruling came on a complaint filed by Billings political consultant Jack Eaton, who usually works for Republican candidates. Eaton tells us today that the violations show what he calls the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party, as it violated rules that it often brags about supporting. The Democratic Party didn't immediately comment this morning on that ruling.
Last week, the Kalispell City Council unanimously approved a plan for the future of downtown. So what's next? The plan is detailed in a 57-page document that goes over everything from traffic flow in the city to parking and possible changes to the couplet that runs around the county courthouse. Over the past months, members of the Council and Planning Department took public comment and surveys into consideration while drawing up this plan. Some of the major topics were about that courthouse couplet, the traffic flow, and parking. That seems to be a big issue for people. Tom Jentz, the City Planning and Building Director, says that the new plan is a blueprint for how the city wants to develop and change in the next 20 years and even beyond that.
This is the plan that we want to have. This is the vision for our community. It was a unified plan, so it wasn't a split council, it wasn't a split vote. I mean, they saw the vision, and it's a vision. It's not an engineering plan, it's not an engineering document. It's a vision for where we should be going, and that's important to understand. That vision is carrying us forward.
And we'll take a closer look at that vision tonight on the 10 o'clock news.
Using FaceTime, texting, or emailing with a personal physician is part of a new healthcare model that's going to launch at a Missoula-based medical walk-in clinic. CostCare will be modifying their Mullen Road location to direct primary care on January 1st. The new model will offer routine medical care at a low monthly rate and include direct and easy access to your doctor.
For our patients who want to be part of the practice, it's up to us to make sure that that contact is kept. So if a patient feels like they need to talk to us on the phone that day, we've got to be calling them that day. If they feel like we need to reply to a text, if it's on our lunch break, we reply to the text. It's just part of the model.
Smith says the majority of doctor visits are for routine visits, things like bladder infections, diabetes, or high blood pressure. He adds that many Americans are paying high insurance premiums on top of those routine checks, so this model is an alternative. Smith does want to remind people that direct primary care should not be mistaken, though, for insurance.
Direct primary care, the model itself, is not insurance. We highly recommend that people have some form of catastrophic type plan in case something were to happen that would be outside of what the DPC membership can allow them.
CostCare will charge $70 a month for adults, $25 for children under 18 with no charge for office visits.
Well, still ahead, we'll talk about how you can make somebody's Christmas merry by making their wishes come true this year.
And a new report is out showing how con artists are raking in millions on pop-ups that show up on your computer. More on that scam coming up on KPAX.